The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to No Credentials Required, where you don't need a press pass to talk sports. We are brought to you by Belly Up Sports in association with Godzilla Media. The man to my right is my broadcast partner, Dustin Henry. Dustin, how are you doing tonight? Have you recovered from a super wild card weekend?
Hey, yo, it was pretty super, but I managed to survive. As a matter of fact, that Monday night game, I almost dozed off. But we'll get to that. It wasn't as wild.
Well, I hope you didn't miss. I'm hoping that we don't miss any extra points like Brett Maher did tonight when we go through our analysis. But before we get to everything that happened during Wild Card Weekend, and we're going to talk about the weirdest sports news related item of the week, it involves snakes. We gotta remind you
that's a tease.
That's a tease for later, folks. But we want to remind you about our social channels right down below. If you're watching on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, it's at NoCredsREQ, Facebook.com/NoCredsREQ, YouTube.com/@NoCredsREQ. If you're watching on either Facebook or YouTube, smash that like button. Smash it good, but smash responsibly. We don't want anybody getting in trouble.
No.
If you're listening on the podcast side, our main base is Megaphone, but you can also find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Google Play, wherever you podcast. Subscribe, rate, and review. 5 stars. We'll always ask for 5 stars because we know you love us. And also review the show, and we might even read it on the air. And as always, we got to play that beautiful Bean music, Dustin. We want you to engage with the show. Here we go. I know you've been waiting the whole weekend for this sound. That's right, folks. Engage with the show. We want your algorithmic engagement comments. We've already got a couple in here. We've got Dave, my buddy Dave. Let's get this party started. Absolutely. Jeff S. said he made it, and he also set an alarm and everything. So very kind of you to do that.
Glad to have you both. And if you're as excited as I am every week about the harp music, tweet at me at eldusto67 with the hashtag TGIT. Thank God it's Tuesday. Tweet at me.
If we have any British listeners, oh God. The British listeners might object to it. So.
See, that's why I had to spell it out. I had to,
All right, so we're gonna get started we're gonna wrap up the wild card weekend. We want to talk about. We're talking about the first game we're gonna talk about is the Seattle Seahawks but the San Francisco 49ers. First half, close game. Second half, then the second half happened. So Dustin, I know you're a Seahawks fan. What are your thoughts after Saturday's game, after the 49ers unfortunately defeated your beloved Seahawks?
Oh, well, this was one of the predictions that I actually got right on Friday. As far as how I thought the game would go. Now, in the first half, I was in heaven, not only because I was cooking chicken tenders for everybody to enjoy.
Chicken tendies.
The hot dog burnt ends, we're going to try them again in the summer on my actual smoker, but I don't know.
Yes, Kevin, we have to talk about this game. I'm sorry. It's the first game of the week, and we have to start with it.
Yes, I'm so sorry. But honestly, the Seahawks were playing exactly how they wanted to play in the first half, and they were going in, and Pete Carroll had the team playing loose. There were some people that didn't like Pete Carroll's comments before the game. He admitted, he said, in some of the coverage leading up to the game, he said San Francisco, to quote him, is a frickin' juggernaut. And I think I think he was just letting his team know, like, hey guys, let's go out there, try to shock the world. They got a great team. Let's see what we can do. I like it. I think he was keeping them loose and not trying to let his team play and just go out there and do their best and see what happened. But in the second half, unfortunately, whatever adjustments San Francisco made in the locker room seemed to have paid off. I wrote that they played pissed off. I think that's part of it. But a big thing that happened is, unfortunately, I think Geno, as he has a tendency to do, if everything else isn't clicking, he decides, all right, I've got to do it a bit on my own now here. And the second half is when he started trying to make some of those questionable throws, got picked off. The fumble, though, was a killer. The Seahawks were driving, and it looked like they were going to keep up with the 49ers. The 49ers scored right out of the half to take the lead, and then the Seahawks were driving, and Geno unfortunately fumbled the ball on, I think it was maybe the 20-yard line or something.
I'll say between the 30 and the 40. Okay,
all right. So that to me sums up the game. The Seahawks tried their best, but they just came up again short. And in the second half, it was almost kind of like the Niners woke up and they ran into that buzzsaw defense. I mean, as I predicted, that they couldn't stop. Seattle didn't get enough pressure on Brock Purdy like I was hoping that they would. And the Niners certainly got pressure on Geno. And I don't know what the left tackle for Seattle was doing, but he kept
the left guard, the wandering
guard.
Okay, so I forgot what his name is. Lucas. Last name is
Lucas. Abraham Lucas. Yeah,
Abraham Lucas. I have nicknamed him the Wandering Nose, and if those of you who play the game Munchkin you'll know what I mean. Why I mean the Wandering Nose. Because he was on those short pass plays that are going to be scored or screens, and all of a sudden you just see him wandering past the line of scrimmage, like do like in here, and gets called for illegal man downfield.
Now, ineligible man downfield. What was that? 3 times? I think that happened.
I think it was 3 times, and one of them was declined.
Yeah,
because they had lost yardage.
Now, and what's unfortunate is Charles Cross and Abraham Lucas both have performed very well. They're both rookies, but people are going to remember that. So that was not his shining moment.
Yeah, this game, I had some semblance of hope for you there, Dustin, for your team. The untimely penalty by Charvarius Ward at the end of the half that could have been a backbreaker for the 49ers. I think Kyle Shanahan, we went to the locker room, said, do you want to lose here to our division rival on playoff weekend? And he must have said something, or one of the coaches, or the players got together and said, no, we're on a heater right now. We've been on a heater since end of November, and we want this ride to continue. And I think they just got so fed up with what I gotta give all due credit. All credit is due to the Seahawks, their coaching staff, Pete Carroll, his coaching staff, the players for following the game plan. Because I know you had a lot of hope going into the half.
I did.
And just to me, it just seemed like the 49ers just said, we gotta wake up. And they drive right down the field the first series, and they get that touchdown. Then they get that strip sack. Then they get another touchdown. Then they get a pick. And it was after that, and then they had the Seahawks got that punt inside the 49ers 26-yard line, and then that Debo catch and run touchdown was the backbreaker. That was the backbreaker. And actually that second touchdown before to McCaffrey, I remember you sitting in your chair and you just go, dang it. It's just, I saw you, I just heard and felt you just go bam. I'm like,
because it was at that point that I knew the game was over, and I think I sauntered back into the kitchen to check on the tenders, or was it the fries? I can't remember.
It might have been the fries. And let me also say, Dustin, I gotta give full credit to you. You've hosted a couple couple of NFL parties at your house. I give full credit to you, man. You put out quite the spread whenever you have people over. It's awesome.
I try, man. I try, and I was super glad that you could come down. There was a couple people that were hoping that maybe could make it. They couldn't, but we'll have to do it again. And next time I got to work on desserts. I got to remember people want something sweet after they eat. You know.
Yep, you gotta have the sweet. You gotta have the sweet with the savory. Yeah,
Yeah,
but talking about the 49ers game, talking about this game, this was you figured the playoffs are a different animal from the regular season, and we don't know what we were going to see from Brock Purdy, but he looked every bit as good in the second half of this game as he had pretty much the entire season long.
he
And
did. He did. And the thing is, it made us. I think we were having a discussion, all of us. What does this mean for Trey Lance? I mean, I think it's
yeah,
fait accompli. It's fait accompli that Jimmy Garoppolo is gone from there. I think he ends up on another team next season. But Trey Lance, I mean, the way Brock Purdy has played, you got to wonder if they're sitting there and they're thinking, we don't have to pay him as much money. You know?
no, that's I concur because Brock Purdy's on a rookie. He's got like the minimum rookie deal, and he's going to be super cheap. And Trey Lance also is still on a rookie deal, but put those two in a tandem together. I mean, the way that Kyle Shanahan gets his quarterbacks ready doesn't matter who it is. Although you could argue Trey Lance was struggling until he had his ankle broken, and
Yeah.
then Jimmy G came in. He settled down the offense. He gets hurt. Brock Purdy comes in, and he gets things going. Kyle Shanahan seems to have these quarterbacks up and ready to run, ready to go. No matter which quarterback is in that lineup, they're ready to go. They know the playbook. They know where their receivers are going to be. They know what works for the run game. And it's the way this 49ers team has been playing has been simply awesome.
Yeah.
Over the last 10 weeks or 11 weeks now. So now we're going to get to the Saturday nightcap, which was the Chargers at the Jaguars. How does Brandon Staley still have a job?
Oh man!
How?
Well, I saw today that it was the OC and the QB coach that got let go.
Yep. How is it on them?
Yeah, yeah. I really because like it or not, the buck stops with the head coach. The head coach assembles that staff. The head coach, it is his responsibility to oversee everything and make sure that everybody's ready to play and everybody's ready to do their job. And I think these two gentlemen were the scapegoats, rather. And I just, I was making jokes. I have to confess here because everybody else on our panel on Friday picked the Jaguars, and I was not confident in the Chargers, but I picked them. And in the first half, I was confident. And when you had some commitments early in the morning, so you had to head out a little early. And I made a joke to the other people that were there, my uncle and Scott. I made a joke. I said, "Oh, Ryan had to leave early because he picked the Jags. He didn't want to be here. He didn't want to be here." I made this joke, but then
I did feel stupid. I'm like, oh, this is good. Dustin's gonna rub it in on Tuesday.
No. But then it just, you could start to tell that the Chargers were nervous. You could see it in their team energy, and they started playing not to lose. You can't do that in the NFL. And meanwhile, old brassy Doug Peterson, he's over there. Like, the Jaguars were so calm, and it was almost like they knew they were going to just come back. They knew it. It was a tale of two halves because the Chargers had obviously the big lead, and they only scored 3 points the entire second half. How you manage that with a roster with Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler, Justin Herbert on it, not to mention the defense, which was the Chargers defense was playing lights out in the first half. They picked off Trevor Lawrence 4 times. 4 times.
Kevin makes a great point. He says, what did the quarterback coach have to do with the Chargers only calling 8 running plays in the second half? Here's my question. I get the OC has a say in it, but at the end of the day, it's Brandon Staley's decisions. It's It's this dumb little sheet that he has folded in his pocket about which plays are running, which plays working. It's like, and you're up 27-0.
Yeah.
If you're up 27-0, good coaches, I would say good to great coaches, they bleed that clock. They
Yes.
bleed that clock. They go on long drives, mostly run heavy with some passes. If you have a third and short, maybe do a play action pass or have another run. You bleed the clock. You absolutely just drain that clock and give no chance for your opponent to catch up.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what happened? They decide, we're going to pass. We're going to pass. We're going to throw the ball. We're going to throw the ball. We're going to throw the ball. It's like they went into it's like Staley went into panic mode.
Yeah.
In the second half.
Yeah. And the thing is also, like, no insult to any NFL running back, but it's not like you've got some rookie out there who's never really been in a playoff situation before, and maybe maybe the situation might be too big for him, and so you're like, we can't put it on this guy's shoulder to bleed out the clock. You have Austin Eckler, by all accounts, one of the best running backs in the game. Also, if you want to pass a little bit, do a short screen to Eckler. Everybody in the stadium knows it's going to him, but still, you want to pass, do a screen pass. Anything to take time off the clock, and they didn't do that at all.
No,
they didn't do that at all. And you have to wonder how much, if any, is on Justin Herbert. Now, Justin Herbert is just trying to go out there and execute what the coaches tell him. And I don't think he's up there, calling audibles and saying, screw you to Coach Staley. I don't get the vibe that he's that type of guy, but also he's got to make some plays, or he's got to help inspire the team and say, hey, let's go out and, okay, they scored a couple of touchdowns. Let's go out and get the momentum back here. Let's do something. I don't know.
Yeah. And then I think part of it's the experience. That was Staley's first playoff game as head coach. And there was a lot of guys that it was their first playoff experience. So, but you can't say, but that's not the excuse for a team that actually also has a lot of veterans on that team. Khalil Mack's a veteran. Kyle Van Noy, he's a veteran. And yeah, you can't lose a game when you force the opposing quarterback to throw 4 interceptions in the first half. That's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
And again, what did I say? What did I say on Friday? I don't trust Brandon Staley. I have not trusted him all year. And when the biggest moment of the season came in the second half, he vanished. Vanished.
And I gotta give it I gotta give it to Scott. We're watching the game. He says to me, he turns to me, we're drinking old fashions. He turns to me, he goes, does Staley survive this? He goes, does he get fired on the tarmac after the game like Lane Kiffin?
He should have gotten fired in the field like Herm Edwards did in October.
Man.
Leave him in Jacksonville. Make him take his own play. Make him take his own plane home.
Yeah,
he's at the scratch.
Shout out to Scott. I know he listens, but I mean, I don't know how Brandon Staley survived this, especially with your clairvoyant powers, because I think Trevor Lawrence should not be celebrating at a Waffle House. He should be buying you a lifetime supply of Waffle House.
You should get me Trevor Lawrence, I know you're listening. You're a big fan of the podcast.
Shout out, Trevor.
Shout out to Trevor, Big Trev. Send me a jersey. I'll become a Jaguars fan.
There we go. Now
you've been challenged.
And this
double extra large, please.
they could continue to be a sleeper, because what does that do for Trevor Lawrence's confidence? He throws 4 interceptions. He's got to be feeling terrible. But then you know what? Who knows what Doug Peterson said to him? But I assure you that in some form, Doug Peterson went over to him and said, hey, we are not out of this game. Let's do this thing. And they did. And some of those calls that Doug Peterson made, some of the
Oh,
plays
that
that he
4th and 1. Oh, that
yes.
was glorious. That was a
Yes.
great play.
No, he's becoming one of my favorite coaches in the NFL. He really is. Just the he plays with reckless abandon. He calls plays with reckless abandon, but it's controlled. You know,
Yeah.
he Riverboat Doug does not have the same ring as Riverboat Ron, but we got to come up with something. I don't know, all in
Dangerous
Doug,
Doug. Dangerous
dangerous
Doug.
Doug, push the
Dangerous
chips
Doug
in. Yeah,
Peterson.
dangerous Doug down in Duval. Yeah, we'll do that.
Duval. Oh man, but I think that was the X factor for the game was Doug Peterson's play calling, and he's a guy who speaks quarterback because he was a quarterback in this league for a long time. He studied under Andy Reid, who basically taught him everything you need to know about coaching. But yeah, I think that was the X factor right there was the fact that Doug Peterson may have talked to him separately may have talked to him on the side in the locker room and just said, listen, you know, it's okay. If you 4 picks, it's okay. We're going to win this game. Just listen to me. Trust me. Listen to my play calling. This is what we're going to do. And he went out and did it. They pulled off the third largest comeback in NFL history or
Yes.
in playoff
And
history.
yeah, I think so. In playoff history, yeah, in the history of the playoffs, it was the
Yeah.
third largest. Yeah.
So before we go to the next game, we're going to give some more shout outs to our comment section. Dave, y'all talking about football. I'm here good distracted by Ryan's dome. You're jealous? You jealous, Dave? Feels good.
There it is. And when you're getting ready in the morning, hey, you don't really have to, some steps are missing. Like
Yeah, low maintenance.
I got to make sure this mangy nest looks somewhat presentable. You don't have to worry about that.
I actually went back to beard balm this weekend. It smells good and it makes my beard look awesome.
Yeah, it's working out,
yeah,
man.
it's working. It's working. Jeff says, and then the more talented team took over. This is talking about the 49ers game. Then the more talented team took over. Was hoping for Seattle myself, but upset pick of the weekend and feeling good to half. Then oh my, yep.
Yeah.
And Kevin says the Cowboys are going to wish the Seahawks hadn't woke up the Niners juggernaut. Yep.
I think so.
Rod Uncensored Podcast. What's going on, Rod? He says, What's up, fellas? Enjoying the show with a nice cigar. Man, we're jealous.
Oh,
We're jealous.
that's awesome. That's
Jeff
awesome. Let us know what you're smoking out there. Maybe a
Yeah.
Romeo y Julieta? I don't know.
Hey. Jeff's got a ribbon Coke. Kevin says Eckler was the running back 1 in football this year. Yep, he was.
He was. And they didn't use him. They didn't use him in a playoff game to run the clock out.
Yeah, big mistake. Jeff says, was it just me or was the game-winning field goal short as it was, barely inside the upright, so close? It did look closely inside the upright, but the thing is, like, I think there was a way that they positioned themselves on the field. Yeah, it did look like it snuck in the upright. If they had moved closer to the middle of the field, it wouldn't have been so tight. The field goal wouldn't have been so tight. So, it's Jaguars live on to go to Kansas City. That actually might be a more entertaining game than everybody thinks.
Perhaps. Yeah.
Get the master and the student, Andy Reid versus Dangerous Duval Doug Peterson. All right, so now we're going to talk about Sunday's afternoon tilt, Dolphins and the Bills. This was an interesting game.
Yeah.
The Bills should have ended it. I think the Bills should have ended it earlier. If they go up 14-0 and they're up 17-6, and then Josh Allen throws this deep ball to Shakir, and he doesn't hold on to the ball. If he holds on to the ball, Bills score, and they're up 24-6 at the half. Instead, it's a flip. It's a 3-point. It's basically a 3-point flip. They punt the ball. Dolphins return it inside Buffalo territory. They get the field goal to end the half. And at one point, Dolphins were up in this game in front of a rabid home crowd at Rich Stadium. and it looked like it looked like the Dolphins were going to go for have the biggest upset of the playoffs, and Buffalo turned things around. They got up ahead, they hung on. But I've got some problems. The Bills were exposed in this game. They were exposed on both sides of the ball, particularly on offense. Their offensive line, they gave up 7 sacks to the Dolphins.
Yes.
And now the defensive line, to their credit, had 4, but there were times when Skylar Thompson looked untouchable, and he was throwing the ball around. So Dustin, what are your thoughts on this game? Dolphins Bills. Do you think that the Dolphins could have stole this one?
Oh yes, to me this was the surprise of the weekend. Because I tuned in, and I had made no bones about it. I said, you know what, I have to work. I'll keep the game on the iPad, but I won't really be watching all that closely because I feel like it's just going to be a blowout. This thing could be over by halftime. And very early on, it looked like I was right. And the Bills were up. They were up the way they were, and it just, to me, it seemed like that maybe the Bills were so intent after everything that's happened this year and everything that happened with Damar Hamlin just a few short weeks ago. I think the Bills put a lot of pressure on themselves, and they knew
Hmm.
that everybody was expecting them to just demolish the Dolphins, especially when you found out that not only was Tua not going to be able to play, somewhat unsurprisingly, but also Teddy Bridgewater's not playing. And then they know,
Ah,
okay, we've got Skylar Thompson in here. And I think that they were putting so much pressure on themselves to go out and win one for DeMar that I think it almost cost them, particularly Josh Allen. You could almost see
yeah,
the pressure on his face because he had what, he threw those 2 interceptions, and I think I want to say he had 3 fumbles. Something crazy. His turnovers, or it might have only been 1 fumble, 3 turnovers at one point when I was watching. But the one fumble, he fumbled the ball, and then the Dolphins went and they fell on it in the end zone for a touchdown. And as a team like that, and you could see that confidence almost buoy the Dolphins, and they're thinking, "Hey, we can do this."
yeah,
And Jalen Waddle didn't even have a catch until the fourth quarter, but he started showing up big
yeah,
for the Dolphins. He really, and I mean, we all knew that Tyreek Hill was fast, but I think sometimes he has these plays where you just feel like he jumps off of the screen, like when he's running. There are many, many, many fast players in the NFL, and I just feel like Tyreek Hill routinely outruns them all. He makes them look like they're just jogging, and he's running at a full sprint. It's unbelievable. But I was happy that the Bills were able to kind of right the ship, and maybe this is the turning point that they needed. Maybe this was the wake up call, and maybe they just, maybe it in a weird way relieves some of the pressure because maybe they feel relief now and they're like, okay, we got past this. But as you pointed out, there are definitely some holes in this Bills team. They are not the invincible juggernaut we thought that they were. And honestly, it would turn out to be the theme of the weekend for me. I mean, any team can beat any team,
hmm,
because there was an even more surprising score for me later on the slate, but I wouldn't say even more, but the Dolphins and Bills were definitely the surprise of the weekend. I think the Bills were playing extremely tight, and maybe this will allow them to loosen up.
yeah, yeah. Look at the stat line. Josh Allen, 3 fumbles, 1 lost fumble.
Okay, so I was right about that.
Naeem Hines also had a fumble in this game. Yeah, it was anyone's game early in the third quarter, and Buffalo scores those 2 touchdowns. They go up by 10. Miami scores a touchdown. They get within 3, and it just seemed like it was a bit of attrition on both sides. And do you think do you think Singletary got that first down?
See, I don't know. Looking back at it, I mean, and when I first saw it, I said I don't think he did. But you, there were so many plays in that game, like that you're just wondering. And I mean, even at the end of the game, and I'm not saying that I think the Dolphins would have won, but how do you end up with no timeouts at the end of the game if you're the
Mhm.
Dolphins for that? That's a little bit clock management is a little suspect there. But man, this game just had there were so many odd things.
Yeah.
And I remember I was listening, people have mixed feelings on Tony Romo calling the game, but he said the longer the Bills let the Dolphins hang around here, the more the pressure is going to ratchet up for him, and he's right about that.
Yep. Yep. And Jeff says, my Dolphins, that 4th and 1 with what looked like a player down, then no official timeout, reset clock though, but we still couldn't get the snap off right near the end. I'm not sure if he was referring to the Singletary run that looked to me like it could have been. I think it was short.
Yeah, I
I
mean
think it was short. It would have
that's
been
what I
fourth. It would have been
thought.
fourth, and it would have been 4th and inches. But I think they just gave them the call because they figured, all right, well, there's no concluding evidence to say that he didn't get the first down. So I don't know. Oh well, it also goes on to say third string quarterback can't get the ball off on time. Maybe on coaches too. Called 2 timeouts earlier in the second half to save them.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it might have been in the coaches too. Mike McDaniel, another coach, the first time in the playoffs. Mike McDaniel,
Yeah.
and he's did a good job coaching this team. They went 8-3 for the first 11 weeks of the season. They went on that slide, and managed to sneak into the playoffs. I don't know what's going to happen with the Dolphins quarterback situation for next year. Some people are saying some people are saying Tom Brady's coming to town. Some are saying Lamar Jackson's coming to town. I don't know if they'll be. I don't know if they'll be able to afford Lamar Jackson. They've got their cap wrapped in 2 players right now, and that would be Tyreek Hill and Brandon Chubb. And Brandon Chubb was a force in this game too. He had one of the strip sacks that almost caused a turnover in the fourth quarter. So, or the third quarter. Maybe it was the fourth quarter. I can't remember. It was late in
Yeah,
the
it's
game.
tough. Yeah.
So many things went on. But Brady, I don't think he goes. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with Brady. We'll talk about him in the Buccaneers with the Buccaneers game. But Miami's got some questions to answer in terms of their quarterback situation. They couldn't keep Tua healthy this year. Teddy Bridgewater couldn't stay healthy, and they had to rely on a third string quarterback, a rookie, to save their season, and he almost
Right.
did it. Full
Yeah,
credit to them; they almost
you
did it.
really did.
All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break from our friends at Invader Coffee, and we'll come back and we'll talk about the last 3 games of this weekend. So stay tuned. This episode of No Credentials Required is brought to you by Invader Coffee. For the coffee lover who wants good, quality coffee with no bullshit and no filler, Invader Coffee is an ultra-premium, veteran-owned coffee company proudly delivering only the best coffee your hard-earned money can buy. They aim to only serve the highest quality, organic, air-roasted coffee beans sourced from free trade farms all over the world. They keep things simple. The best coffee at an affordable price in order to provide you with the value you deserve for your morning boost. 100% fair trade, 100% organic coffee beans, 100% air roasted, 100% money back guarantee. Visit invadercoffee.com, enter promo code BELLYUP at checkout, and receive 15% off your order. That's right, folks. Link in the description if you're listening. If you're listening on the podcast side, or if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, link in the description to help the show out. Put in the promo code BELLYUP, get 15% off your order. Delicious, delicious coffee from our friends at Invader Coffee. I'm enjoying the Jolly Java. Dustin, I know you enjoyed the coffee, and you sung their praises before as well.
Oh yeah, I'm getting down on that cookie crumble right now. Still,
Hey, right.
trying to make it last. I'm only having it on weekends because I'm like, I got to make this last here.
You just want Christmas to last. I got you.
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, especially in the like this period in January and early February, you're just like, man, you're not quite into the swing of the new year yet.
Nope, no, but we're getting there. We're getting there. So Bitter Coffee can help you. So to caffeinate yourself with some premium roasted coffee. All right, let's move on to the late afternoon game. Giants at Vikings. Man, what a game this was. This was
Wow.
probably the most entertaining game of the entire weekend. And throughout the game, you could kind of sense the Giants came out. Now granted they spotted the Vikings a 7-0 lead. But then they decided to play some smash mouth football throughout the entire game. I love smash mouth football. This team. Man, I don't know about this team. I said I think in October or late October or early November, I said one of the teams that was going to be in the Super Bowl, it could be in the Super Bowl in Phoenix, was going to be the New York Giants. And this was the game to prove that they have what it takes to go to go far. And they flat out did it. They did it by punching the Vikings in the mouth
Mhm.
repeatedly at times.
Yes. Yes.
But to me, this is a very entertaining game. My big brother Jim, he was practically having a coronary all game long because he's a because he is a because he's a Giants fan. But Dustin, let me get your thoughts about this game. What were your thoughts about this Vikings Giants game?
Well, I'll keep it short and succinct because there was a point in the second half where, both offenses just decided, okay, we're going to ramp things up now. And it seemed like both teams were scoring going up and down the field. But I knew the Giants were going to pull it. We called this game. We all
Mm-hmm.
called this game, and we listed the reasons. We listed the negative point differential for the Vikings. We listed that their defense had given up. I forget how many yards. I mentioned it in earlier shows. The Vikings defense is not good. The Giants
No.
defense has showed promise repeatedly throughout the year, and you just knew Saquon was running. He's had a heck of a season. Is Daniel Jones, was this his arrival party? I would say this was one of the best games of his career. Certainly, he looked efficient with the football. He looked like he was making good decisions. He just looked poised for the first time in a while, and you're thinking, hey, maybe this is the Daniel Jones that was meant to be there all along.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe this is the first time he feels like he has a stable coaching staff, a staff that believes in him. He's had to deal with so much turnover, so it was nice to see Daniel Jones. Finally, I think it feels like the light bulb went off for Daniel Jones a bit this year, so that helped. But also, I mean, and I hate to keep trouncing on the Vikings here, but it just is
Power through it.
the vibe with this team. Even like on the broadcast, they were saying they had Bud Grant there, and they're saying they're hoping that he brings some luck to the franchise. They
Bud Grant's still alive. My
Yes,
God.
but they didn't. I'm going to debut right now. I'm going to debut my Kirk Cousins Halloween costume, and here it is. And I've seen this look so many times in games this year, but also in this game. I pointed at the TV while I was watching, and I said, there it is. This is what happens. This was Kirk Cousins coming off the field when he missed a throw. He would come off the field, he'd shake his head, he had this look, and he would do the thing where he just, where they aggressively pulled down the straps on their helmet,
Mm-hmm.
the chin strap. You could see just the frustration, but that is how I remember Kirk Cousins. I'm sorry, because he does that so many times. There's so many times where he misses throws or he tries to force something. It's a little bit of a parallel with the Chargers. For as much talent as the Vikings have, they certainly didn't play like it. The Giants played like they had a chip on their shoulder. The Giants played united. That defense played like they had something to prove, and they wanted to prove that they should have beaten the Vikings earlier in the year. This was a revenge game for the Giants, and they got it.
Let me give two other thoughts. Isaiah Haskins
I
for the
think,
Giants.
yeah, let me double check that here.
Oh well, their best receiver on the field was Isaiah Hodgins. Sorry.
Hodgins, okay.
Ever since he joined the team, he's been their best receiver. Like he literally came out of nowhere and he was their best receiver. Two or B, whichever I was going. Saquon Barkley's getting a contract. He's getting a big contract this year.
Yep.
And Daniel Jones is going to stick around as a Giant. I think they've both earned it. And for as much crap as Daniel Jones has gotten, because the Giants selected him in the first round in 2019, for as much crap as he's been getting, because he had the wrong coaches and he had the wrong systems, I think Brian Dable deserves Coach of the Year.
Yeah.
Just based off what the Giants did, he did with the Giants this year, and based on what he's done with Daniel Jones, he's breathed life into Daniel Jones as a quarterback, and he's revived what was going to be a bust that was Saquon Barkley's career. I know in 2020, he tore his ACL against the Bears.
Mm-hmm.
And last year was kind of a meh season for him, but this was the breakout year. This was the year that every Giants fan, and I think any football fan, wanted to see from Saquon Barkley. If you're a respectable football fan, you are actually happy about what's been happening with Saquon Barkley this year.
Yeah.
And I mean, from myself, on a fantasy football perspective, yeah, he won me a title.
Yeah.
And guys, I haven't gotten that belt yet. Where's that belt, man?
But yeah, and I have to say, and I'll give credit where it's due. I listened to the Fantasy Focus football podcast, and Stefania Bell said at the beginning of the season, she said Saquon will be healthy this year. He will have a reclamation season. Saquon talked to me. He told me that he didn't feel 100% last year. He came back, but she said sometimes with the injury he had, it takes a long time to fully recover. And she said that she spoke to him and he said, this, I feel 100%. I feel better than I have. And she said, to me, it rang more than just preseason speak. You know, that whole thing, the old cliche with the baseball players, I'm in the best shape of my life, all that. She said, this is different. And she's been proven right. And it's like her timeline lined up when she said, sometimes it takes some people longer to heal from this injury. I don't think Saquon was healed last year. And I think that he is fully healed now. He's healthy. He looks great. And part of it has probably got to be Dable's scheme. I mean, Dable has, I have to co-sign your pick for Coach of the Year there. There are a lot of coaches. There are Philadelphia Eagles fans that are going to scream Sirianni from the rooftops. We have been very complimentary of Doug Peterson on this show. I think he would be the only one that would be in the same realm. But in 1 year, Brian Dable has turned around the culture, and you can tell the Giants believe that they can win. And also, I'm always big about giving Kyle Shanahan the credit he deserves for dealing with all the injuries that he's dealt with. The Giants also had next man up. So many of their wide receivers went down. Heck, Darius Slayton in this game makes a big play, and then he goes down. And it is just the receivers come in, and they manage to catch the balls. They manage to get it done.
Yep. You also got to give full credit to the Giants defense as well.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say they bled on the passing game. I mean, Kirk Cousins had 73 yards, but they limited Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, that's the big
60 yards. And also have a new, we talk about Kirk being two chains Cousins. Well, I have a new nickname for Kirk Cousins. Kirk check down Cousins. What are you doing on 4th and 8 and you're throwing it down in their check down tight end who is blanketed by the Giants' best safety cover safety? Come on.
Yeah, I mean, I know Hawkinson had a great game, but
He did too, yeah.
he's not going to get it done, though. That's not going to get it done. Oh, man. Should we say let Dalvin cook? I don't know about that.
Ooh.
I do. I love Dalvin Cook as a player. I feel that he runs physical. But yes, I mean, you are right. The Giants defense did a wonderful job. And I have to credit you. You have been singing the praises of the Giants defense since probably about week 4 on this show.
Thank you. We're into more comments here. My buddy Sick Diggy from the Snowman comment section. He says, excuse me. No credentials required is brought to you by Bron Joy Juice, the drink of bronzesexuals, made with 100% organic seal milk. He also says, hello, Mr. McCoffee. Thanks, Sick Diggy. I appreciate you stopping by. Jeff says, New York at Minnesota, my exciting game. Ryan says, agreed. Sick Diggy talking about Daniel Jones. You mean his coming out party? Yes, absolutely. This was definitely I think the stat was that he was the first quarterback with over 300 yards passing, 70 yards rushing, and 2 touchdowns in the same game for a quarterback.
Yeah,
sort of ridiculous stat like that. I mean, not ridiculous as in, oh, this is just another crap stat we're putting out here, but it's like, wow, that's really awesome. Good for him.
Yeah, and the thing is, and I saw this thing on Instagram earlier in the year, and it was a clip of some Giants players, and they were calling Daniel Jones Vanilla Vic, and I'm like, I don't know about all that.
Come on,
that's a terrible nickname, but you could see why they made the Michael Vick comparisons with a stat line like that. I don't think Daniel Jones is on the level of a Michael Vick as far as the athletic ability and everything, but man, he is a dual threat to be sure.
Yeah. And he's probably earned himself a new contract with the Giants this year, unless he decides to go test the waters of free agency somehow. But I think Joe Shane is going to make him an offer he can't refuse. So that's just me. That's just my opinion about that matter. All right, moving on to the nightcap. Ravens at Bengals. Bengals come away with a 24-17 victory. This was a strange game. This is a very strange game, considering what happened the week before when the Bengals threw all over the place against the Ravens. The Ravens, both teams had wrapped up their playoff spots. This is the Bengals' 9th win in a row. Not counting the regular season, this is their 9th win in a row, but they had to do it unconventionally with their defense coming through. I mean, this is a weird game, Dustin. What are your thoughts about this game?
Well, this was the other game that really shocked me. It wasn't quite as shocking as the Dolphins and the Bills final score, but it was darn close. And I'll tell you, I was shaking for a while because the Bengals have been my pick for the hottest team in the NFL. And I have been saying with relative confidence that I think they're going to get back to the Super Bowl to represent the AFC. But wow, did they look shaky. And I just thought that they would blow Baltimore off the field. I mean, you astutely mentioned that Baltimore's defense is good. It's not Ray Lewis heyday good with Ed Reed back there and all these things, but it's better than people think. The days of Terrell Suggs are long gone, but they still have some players on this defense. But man, I just thought Cincinnati had the horses to run away with it, to be sure. And they just did not look crisp at all in this game. And I was not expecting it. And they needed an improbable, Huntley was going to go into the end zone. He tried to reach the ball over. Forget my hands in the shot there. It was a natural reaction. But he reaches and he fumbles, and it just happens to land in a Bengals defensive player's hand, and he takes off 98 yards the other way.
It was Hubbard.
Required oxygen after the play. Big man was rumbling there.
Yeah,
But
that was Sam Hubbard,
yeah,
pride of Cincinnati.
he's a hometown. Yeah, I was going to say he's a hometown guy. But that play was improbable. If Hundley puts that ball in, this game, in my opinion, is over. And you have to wonder what they could have done if oh man, why
Lamar Jackson.
if Lamar was in there. You have to wonder what they could have done if Lamar was in there. And to me, also, Cincinnati barely escaped. And I don't know if this is with the Bills. I felt like the Bills were going to turn it around, but Cincinnati, I was worried for a while. And like you said, when you think of Cincinnati, you think of their offense, humming on all cylinders. They've got all the weapons that they have, and they have Joe Burrow. He's proven that he's a star in this league. But it was the Bengals defense that had to help them to victory. But this game, to me, I think there's problems in Baltimore. I think there's some things going on. You have J.K. Dobbins coming out, and you have him making comments. Why don't you give me the ball in that situation? I should have the ball in that situation.
That sounds very familiar if you're a Seahawks fan.
Yes, yes, it does. It's
Sorry, I had to bring it. I had to bring it up.
It's true. Run the dang ball. But you just have to wonder, and then the whole thing that's brewing with Lamar. For what it's worth, I do think that Lamar, I'm torn on the issue, but I lean much more towards Lamar with the injury he has. Only he really knows how he feels trying to play on it. And I brought it up on Friday's show. Robert Griffin III was never the same after he tried to play that game. And they showed a clip of it, and I had forgotten this part. He went to do a scramble in the rain, and he just collapsed on the field. The Seahawks players went to sack him in that game, and they just let him fall. They did not touch him because he was everything was shredded. He could not go on that. And thank goodness that did not happen with Lamar Jackson. I know there are some people that feel that he's got to be out there, but you never can tell with these types of injuries. But yeah, I think there's some issues in Baltimore for sure. And I hope Cincinnati gets it right, and that we see them play at their full powers, so to speak, next game.
So will all that happened with J.K. Dobbins and John Harbaugh and John Harbaugh with the spicy sideline interview?
Oh
and I was like, oh, he shouldn't have spoken to her like that. It's like they're trying to do mid-game adjustments.
Yeah.
Like, why do you want to talk to the coach when they're doing mid-game adjustments? Like he channeled his inner Nick Saban during that clip.
He did. And I understand sideline reporters, they're good at what they do. They're just trying to go out there and ask their job and do their jobs. But the thing is, these in-game interviews, what purpose do they serve? The coach is never really going to give you any answer other than the canned, I thought we did this well. We need to work on this. We'll try to make adjustments for the second half. They're going to say some variation of that. So what purpose do they serve?
Right. No, I got you. I mean, if you're going to ask somebody, ask sideline personnel. Just don't have them at all. I mean, and it's an extra job for somebody to do. Great, but does it really matter to the person at home who's watching? Not really.
Mm-hmm.
Not really. All right, we're going to give it a couple comments before we move on to the last game. Wonka the saying, thanks for watching. Quote, this was a strange game, unquote, is the Cincinnati Bengals theme this season. And Jeff had mentioned Roquan Smith. Now, I got to say about this. Roquan Smith earned his contract, but I think it's going to be the undoing of the Ravens when they try to re-sign Lamar Jackson. I know he kind of bet on himself this year. Things didn't really work out in terms of trying to grab a big money deal. I personally think, and you mentioned it, Dustin, the supposed toxicity in the locker room with the J.K. Dobbins saying what he said. I think we've seen Lamar Jackson in a Baltimore Ravens uniform for the last time.
Mm.
I think he could be out of there. He could be in a number of places next year. He could be a Jet, could be a Raider, could be a Buccaneer. Some people are saying the Dolphins, although I think again they got too much money wrapped up in grand total of 2 players. It's gonna be very hard for them to sign him. But I think he's going to wind up somewhere anywhere else but Baltimore, unless Baltimore says, "Okay, we'll throw you this much money. Come back and play with us."
Yeah,
My
but
opinion.
and I don't know much about the contract situation other than what I've heard, on ESPN and some other outlets and some account. But apparently, Baltimore, there are people that feel that Lamar Jackson's camp thinks that Baltimore lowballed them with that first offer, and that this is also contributing to the situation. So because they were comparing it to the contracts, the guarantees that Russell Wilson got, and another player whose name escapes me. So there, I think
Kyler
there's a
Murray.
lot. Yes, Kyler Murray. Yes, it was Kyler Murray. Thank you. And obviously Lamar feels that he is at minimum on the level with both of those players. And if he has the confidence level that most athletes have, and you got to have it in yourself, he probably feels that he is superior to both of those players in terms of skills and at the quarterback position. So,
Yep. So we're going to move on to the last game of Super Duper Extra Special Wild Card Weekend, and that is the Cowboys and Buccaneers on Monday night. I think our entire panel got this wrong. Most of America probably got this wrong, except for unless you're in Dallas. This was awfully surprising. For this game, this score was very surprising for a number of reasons. I figured Tampa has got the home field advantage. Yeah, they finished with an under 500 record, but the home field advantage. Todd Bowles is going to try to scheme up something to counteract Dak Prescott, and it blows up in his face. Dak throws for 4 touchdowns, runs for another one. Cowboys took the early lead, and they led wire to wire.
yep.
And this was just it was an impressive dismantling of a Buccaneers team that their record reflects who they are. Bill Parcells said it best: your record reflects what team you are. And the Buccaneers weren't that good.
Yeah.
All season long.
And I will say, and part of me, and I have had a lot of mixed feelings about Tom Brady throughout his football career. The combo of Brady and Belichick, I think now that they're broken up, it's a little better. But I went through my periods where I just didn't want to see him in the playoffs anymore. Either of them. I was tired. But I found myself, and I don't hate the Cowboys. Contrary to popular belief, I don't hate them at all. I don't dislike them even. But I just kept waiting for the time. Okay, Tom Brady's gonna find a way to turn it on. He's gonna find a way to rally the troops. And I've noticed something because I had to watch the entirety of that Bucks game in Germany against my Seahawks, and I've seen a fair bit of the Bucks this year, having watched a lot of Red Zone and some recaps on NFL Plus, what have you. If the Bucks get Mike Evans involved early in the game and Tom Brady and Mike Evans are on the same page early, it's a different Bucks offense than the one that showed up to play the Cowboys last night. But you got to give credit to the Cowboys. Their defense really played well. And Dak Prescott, I'm going to say it right now. I have to eat some crow. I've never been a Dak Prescott hater. I just don't think that he's as good as people think that he is. But this had to feel great for him last night. One, He
Yep.
silenced a lot of his critics. Two, he had, I'm going to say it, he had the playoff performance of the weekend without question. Though that four, he was 25 of 33. He had those 4 TD passes. He had the 24 rush yards and the one more TD. I mean, 5 touchdowns in a playoff game. You're doing some great things. And I'll be interested to see if now that he can finally play with a little more confidence. He can say, I showed a lot of you who doubted me what I can do, and now you're going to see it. And if he does a similar performance against the Niners next game, then we will have to continue to take our hats off to him. And if the Cowboys manage to get past the Niners, man, that's gonna be a big thing. But I was surprised. The Bucks looked hapless out there. They looked like a car they had managed to patch it to pass inspection for a year, and on the way to the next year's inspection appointment, it broke down.
Oh,
That's like the best way I can describe it. It just Leonard Fournette showing up wearing a playoff Lenny shirt. It didn't look like it, and the Bucks, they got away from running the ball because it wasn't
yeah.
working. It
That
just
was the biggest contributing factor of this game was the fact that Dallas was able to stuff the Buccaneers running game. And yeah, big game. Playoff Lenny's back. 5 rushes, 11 yards. His
yeah.
longest was a 6-yard run. So he gets stuffed. And this game was just it was all Cowboys in this game. And you gotta give full credit to Mike McCarthy. No relation, but you gotta give credit to that. But you also gotta give credit to Dan Quinn's defense. Dan Quinn
Yes.
came up with a great game plan. And yeah, it's not the Buccaneers from 2 years ago who went all the way in the Super Bowl and dominated the Chiefs. But Dan Quinn did enough. That was the primary predicate. The primary objective of this game was to stop the run and make sure Mike Evans doesn't get the ball early. Because, like you said, Dustin, once Tom Brady and Mike Evans start getting fired up, it's hard to stop them.
Mm-hmm.
Very hard to stop them. And mission accomplished for the Cowboys. And Dan Quinn, gotta give lots of credit to him on his game plan for the Buccaneers. And I got a question for you, Dustin. What do you think? And we're not him. He doesn't have our athletic abilities. We don't have his. But if you're Tom Brady, what do you do after this game? Do you go to Miami? Do you go to Las Vegas? Do you go to, God forbid, the Jets? Do you retire? Do you buy the CFL? Like, what do you do after this game? What's your thought process right now if you're Tom Brady?
Oh, I have 2 very conflicting moments in my head, but I saw a clip from his press conference after the game, and he thanked all the Tampa Bay reporters, and he thanked the Tampa Bay organization for bringing him in. He got emotional at the end of it. He had a look of a man, to me, that knows he's done. He had a great career, but he looked to me like he just knew that this was it. He knew this was his last. He said, "Let's fire it up for one last time." And this was a different look on Tom Brady's face than I've seen. And you know, but then there's a part of me. There's a part of me that thinks that even if he does decide um, that as of now to walk away, because everything is very raw. It's a loss. It's not the way you wanted to go out. You might think, hey, I don't know if I can do this anymore. But if we're into the summer and there are teams that are reaching out to him and saying, we'd love to have you. And as it gets closer to fall and he decides, okay, I don't want to go through an off-season training program. I don't want to go through mini camp, but maybe I can fire it up for one last ride, because I feel like there's also a part of him that doesn't want to go out like that with a first round playoff loss. But I also feel like he had the look for the first time for the first time, I just felt like he had the look and the vibe of someone that said, "This is not the way I want to go out, but I don't know if I can get any further than this." You know,
Hmm.
the only way that I think that he could come back and get further than where he got this year, based on some of the teams that are out there and the talent they have, he needs to go to a place like the Niners if he's going to come
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
And
I
and
agree.
that would be the only place. But to me, he had a different look to him when I saw that clip and how emotional he got. I think he's done. What about you?
You know, you mentioned the press conference. I didn't watch the game. I went to bed pretty early last night. I figured the Cowboys would pull it out because of how they controlled the ball so well.
Oh yeah.
Um, I did not watch the press conference, but from what it sounds like, Tom Brady sounds like a man who has been through a lot over the
Mhm.
past year. He retired. He hung up the cleats for 40 days, decided to come back. Then his divorce comes out in the open. It's out in the open for all to see. His personal life is not so exposed, but his personal life is out in the open. Then you had the whole FTX thing with the crypto going crazy
Oh yeah, I
and that
forgot
whole
about that.
thing. He lost a bunch. He took a bath on that. He might be called as a federal witness. You don't know. He sounded like a man who would, and the fact that the Buccaneers had the season they finished under 500 and they won their division because no, let's be frank, nobody wanted to win that division.
Yeah.
But he sound from all indications from what you're telling me is he got very emotional during the end of not very emotional, but he sounded very emotional
Yeah.
during the end of the press conference. It sounds like a man who has been through the ringer, and if he retires, I don't fault him. If he decides to come back for one last ride, I don't blame him. Like you said, he needs to go to a place like San Francisco, who has a very balanced offense. Having Christian McCaffrey, I mean, if it takes the hometown discount because he's a San Francisco boy,
Yeah.
and if the Niners decide to pay, if they they'll let Jimmy Garoppolo walk and they'll give the bag to Christian McCaffrey to keep him for 5 years. That takes and having a guy like Debo Samuel as versatile as he is, take a lot of
Yes.
pressure off of Brady. I think he just sling the rock when he needs to, not because he has to, not
Mhm.
because he has to, because his defense, because his run game's been shut down. The 49ers have a great offensive line. This year's offensive line for the Buccaneers was not as good as previous seasons. But yeah, I mean, it just I think he gives it one last ride, but he gives it somewhere that he knows he can win a title. And San Francisco is their best bet. But again, we're not Tom Brady, where
Mhm.
we can't get inside his head. We don't know what he's thinking. So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens in the next month or so.
But and like I said, I'm relatively confident as you could be, at this time, that he just sounded and looked different. But you brought up the emotional year, and also was the raw emotion of losing in the playoffs. What better way of ending the script? And this is all predicated on whether John Lynch and Niners ownership wants to do this, because as we explained, they have Brock Purdy, they have Trey Lance. What do you do? But if they decide to bring in Tom Brady, that would be the most tempting offer, because it is his hometown. He takes the hometown discount, and then he writes the script. He gets to finish his career where he grew up, with a great team back home, with a young defense too. Younger
Yeah,
defense certainly
very
than
good
than
defense.
what they had in Tampa Bay this season. So, yeah, you could be right. You could be right. We'll have to see.
The fact of the matter is, he's got his money, he's got his rings. If he wants to go out on his terms, give him a league minimum, and just let him see what he can do.
Mhm.
So before we go to our final story of the night, I'm gonna go with some comments. 60 says Tom Brady should retire for good. He's 45 and needs to hang it up. What more else does he have to prove? Like we've been saying, he might think he might have something else to prove.
Yeah.
Wonka the saying, I like hating the Cowboys. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, we all do. We like to hate. We like to hate. Micah Parsons is extremely good. Jeff says nothing new. I know. Yeah, Micah
Yeah,
Parsons
but it's true.
is if it were up to if it was your vote, would you give Micah Parsons or Nick Bosa the Player of the Year,
Nick
Defensive
Bosa.
Player of the Year? Okay,
Nick Bosa for me.
okay,
And maybe it's a bit of NFC West. Obviously, I follow the NFC West a little bit more because the Seahawks are in there. But Nick Bosa he is a defensive he is a defensive mastermind, and he also didn't appear to lose his cool a little bit like his brother in the Charger game there.
Oh, geez.
Joey was mad. Joey
Oh,
was real mad.
he was bad.
Yeah.
All right. Jeff also says nothing but San Francisco or retirement would for Brady, in my opinion. Yeah, we've been saying that too. And Sick also asked, would the 49ers even consider signing Tom Brady? Snowman would be quite irate. It depends on Brady.
Yeah.
No, we can't get inside his head. We don't know what his thoughts are. Only he knows what he's thinking. And right now, what he's thinking is the season's over.
Yeah, and I mean, and the thing is, who knows what motivates an athlete? I mean, LeBron has been on record that he wants to be on the court with Bronny when Bronny hits the NBA, and that's his motivation. And then he said after that he's done. So, but you know what? With the way LeBron's he's 38 years old, and he
Yeah.
still is playing at the level that he's in. I think that's enough to motivate him. If Brady's got
Well, he hasn't been playing as much lately, and his 3-point shooting skills have
yes, yes,
been.
I'm not saying that he's necessarily going to make it, but if he uses that as motivation and it's enough to push him, then I could see if Brady to me now I'm not comparing him to Michael Jordan, different animals, different sports, but he seems to have a little bit of that. Jordan could make up a slight in his head. He could make it
Yeah,
up that he had to prove something, that somebody had said something to him and the person never said it. Turns out he just used it as motivating factors, and I think that Brady's got a little bit of that DNA in him as
yeah,
well. So who knows?
yep. All right. So the moment we teased in the beginning, we're going to go to the weirdest sports-related story of the week, and it comes out of the NHL. Vegas goalie Robin Lehner has filed for bankruptcy. He is citing up to $50 million in debts to dozens of creditors, according to ESPN.com. He's filing for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. And it says it includes money owed to no fewer than 50 people and companies, according to the Las Vegas Journal Review. And a lot of this seems to stem from missed payments for a collection of rare snakes he purchased for $1.2 million in 2017 that he keeps at his reptile farm in Plato, Missouri. Now, it seems like Joe Exotic with a few extra steps to me. And I understand. I'll put this caveat in here. I know Robin Lehner has talked about he's been very open about his struggles with alcoholism and mental health issues. Full credit to him on that side. But
Yeah.
I wonder if any of these decisions came while he was going through that struggle. I mean, that's just my theory about it. I mean, mental health can lead you to do ridiculous things and make ridiculous purchases, whether it be on on just an emotional thing or just on a whim. But $50 million in debts for if you're a professional hockey player,
Yeah.
or professional athlete, period, that's a lot of money.
No, it is. And I was reading that he had recently signed a $25 million contract
Yep.
with the Vegas Golden Knights. And you got to figure, well, his family's set for generation. Well, 25 mils, great money.
Yeah.
But if you're spending 50 mil, that's simple math. You're at least half in the hole. And this is and no shade against Johnny Depp. I'm a big Johnny Depp fan, but apparently old Johnny had a spending problem a few years ago, and I remember reading an article, and I can't remember the specifics, but some of the stuff he was spending ungodly money on historical artifacts. He had like 7 houses. Got to the point where his financial advisor was like, I quit. I can't. I like a former financial advisor came out. That's where they got a lot of the quotes in the article, because Johnny was just spending, and he's like, "Hey, Johnny, you make a ton of money, but you're you're spending a lot more money. You're going to be in some trouble." And finally, supposedly the financial advisor was like, "Hey," and this just if he, as you have said, if he did some of this while he was struggling with various things, these things happen, but it just is, that's an ungodly amount of spending. Forgive the,
Yeah,
it's
that's a lot of money. I mean,
yeah,
a part of it. I mean, so here it's not just the snakes. So apparently he was also the owner of a company called Solar Code.
yeah,
They're in about solar energy, and Eclipse Service Inc., which is, let me just look it up real quick.
yeah. I believe I had read that he and his wife were both
Yeah.
involved in those ventures.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, and then that he didn't make some payments. I have to verify some things in the article, but man, that's everybody's nightmare, right? To making some investments that don't work out.
Yeah, so he had surgery on both his hips. He's not playing this season. He's actually, I think he said that, I think one of the articles said he was recovering. He's playing in a Swedish league. Oh wait, no, he spent no, sorry. He's spending the entire 2022-23 season recovering from
Rehabbing. Yeah.
surgery on both of his hips. Now, um, it's
That could be a contributing factor too, because he's a lot of athletes have been very candid about how hard it is and the mental struggles that you go through trying to recover, because you want to be out there. And
yeah,
also when you're recovering, I remember Steve Smith talking about it in his Football Life episode. I love Football Life. Everybody knows this now after last week's episode, but
yep,
he said, you're isolated, you're away from your teammates, you want to be there, it's very hard, and you have to try to do things on your own. And he said, you're not getting the structure of going to the facility, going to the, it, so that's got to be very hard on any athlete that's used to that.
yeah. And Six says, when it comes to substance abuse and recovery, one can try to replace old habits with new ones.
Yeah,
Absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. Anybody in addiction and recovery knows this firsthand, that they're trying to replace one thing with another thing. He also says impulsive buying is a common habit for those in recovery. Also very true. He also asks who was his financial advisor. Well, apparently no one.
Yeah, I don't know. I
I
don't
mean,
know.
some professional athletes just get bored. I mean, that's part of the thing too. Is I remember the 30 for 30 broke.
Oh,
Have you ever
yeah.
seen the 30 for 30 broke? That he just says, okay, well, you see the contract, you see the big money, and what you're forgetting is that they have set aside money for the agent, they have set aside money for the manager, their
Mhm.
attorneys, their business management. They do partnerships, they do other things. Although, but taxes is a big one, because when you play when you go on the road, you have to pay. And I mentioned this at your get together the other day. Tyreek Hill said, I don't want to play in New Jersey because I have to pay the taxes, because
Yep.
they pay too much in taxes. Well, guess what? You're still going to be paying New Jersey taxes when you play at MetLife Stadium, because if you work in that state for that week, you're paying those taxes there,
Mhm.
because that's where you earn your paycheck. So you're paying taxes, and you have tax advisors, you have financial advisors, and a lot of times they get bored, or they get complacent, or like in this case with Robin Leonard, it's addiction issues, or or mental health issues that could lead you to make impulsive decisions when it comes to your money.
Mhm.
And he also says, Sick also says, when it comes to big money deals, one should have an accountant, a financial advisor, and a tax attorney. The rock, paper, and scissors of finance. Yep.
Yeah.
Every athlete should have that. I think I remember correctly. The NFL has set up, and I don't know if other leagues do this too, but they set up a workshop for rookies coming into the league
They
every
do.
year, and they say, okay, this is what you need to do. The average career of an NFL of someone in the NFL is 2.5 seasons.
Yeah.
If you're going to sign a contract, you want to make sure you set yourself up for life. And some guys do it, but a lot of guys don't.
Yeah.
And they wind up in a situation where they're in a bad way. They're bankrupt in a matter of years.
Mm-hmm. No, it's a tough, and I think I remember hearing that the financial things that the NFL has put in place for rookies. I think they're part of the rookie symposium,
Yes.
if I remember correctly. And
Mm-hmm.
I also remember reading a few years ago that I think certain teams, I'm not sure if every NFL team has it, but certain teams have like a current player that the rookies can go to and say, "Hey, how did you set up your financial
Yep.
affairs?"
It's usually the player rep for the Players Association. It's that particular player rep.
I remember reading, this was a number of years ago, that the one for the Seahawks was none other than Marshawn Lynch, beast mode himself,
Oh
because
dear.
famously, no, but I'm going to tell you, Marshawn's good with that money because I remember reading in that article, they said that he has not touched a dime of his NFL contract money. He has lived strictly off of royalties from endorsement deals and also like commercial spots he did in Seattle and other places, and now his beast mode brand. He's got it set up well for himself. So
Well, that's probably part of the reason why he was able to buy into the fan controlled football.
oh yeah, the
The beast
FCF.
FCF.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so we're gonna wrap things up for another edition of No Credentials Required. We're also gonna, in addition to this episode, you're also gonna get a bonus episode on Friday at 7. We'll be previewing the divisional rounds. Tag along is just joining us.
As he does.
The tag along cam. There you go. But we'll have a special episode. We'll have a bonus episode of the division. We'll be previewing the divisional round with some special. We'll reach out to some special guests. Hey, maybe Josh and Travis will stop by. They'll and have some more fun with us. But in the meantime, follow us on our socials right down here below: Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at NoCredsREQ, Facebook.com/NoCredsREQ, YouTube.com/at NoCredsREQ. And if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, smash that like button. Smash responsibly. If you listen to the podcast on the podcast side, subscribe to the podcast. Our primary hub is Megaphone, but you can also find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Google Play, wherever you podcast. Hi, buddy. And rate and review 5-star. Tagalong asks. He asked for 5 stars. This many stars.
Yes, please.
He asked for 5 stars. And if you leave a review, we may read it on the air. So if you're watching live, thanks for watching. If you're listening, thanks for listening. If you're watching the replay, thanks for watching the replay. For my broadcast partner, Dustin Henry, for the show mascot tag along, my name is Ryan McCarthy. We're your hosts of No Credentials Required, where you don't need a press pass to talk sports. We are presented by Belly Up Sports in association with Godzilla Media. Thank you for watching. We'll be back here on Friday at 7 o'clock Eastern to preview the NFL games. But until then, have a great night.
Good night, everybody.